Geiger Investments presents the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger. There are many pieces to the modern retirement puzzle. This show talks about those pieces of retirement and the tools used to help the retired and soon to be retired toward their lifetime goals. Welcome. The Academy is on the air.
Welcome to the Retirement Focus Academy, powered by Geiger Investments and Kevin Geiger. You can always go to the website to find out more, GeigerInvestments.com, G-E-I-G-E-R, GeigerInvestments.com. If Kevin says something you're like, well, I'd like to know more about that, you certainly can call the team and ask, 843-375-8700. They're here to help you when it comes to your retirement planning and strategies, your income, your investments, your taxes, your health care, long-term care, legacy estate planning. Social Security's in the income part, Medicare's in the health care part. A lot of moving pieces here when it comes to your retirement. So the team is here to help you in your situation, because everybody's situation is different. 843-375-8700. And if you'd like to learn more about different areas of retirement, you can always go to the absolutely free, non-for-profit website, retirementfocusacademy.com, that Kevin and Lauren have created for you. It's always free of charge to you. There's a lot of different educational workshops covering all topics related to retirement. So if you're getting closer to retirement or you're already in retirement, you got some questions, probably a workshop on that topic right there on their website, retirementfocusacademy.com. You know, we certainly talk about retirement every week on this program because that's what Geiger Investments is here to help you with, and a lot of moving parts. And when we talk about today's retirement being different than our grandparents', I think we get that, right? I mean, our grandparents retired with pensions. We're retiring in the 401k world. A lot of different challenges when we head into retirement that weren't there for our grandparents. Now, every generation has its own challenges, Kevin, but we're going to talk about some of those challenges that you think people rolling into retirement really should start factoring into their equation of things they need to be ready for. So I guess let's start with this. We're going to talk about these challenges today on the program, but do you run into new clients that think, you know what, Kevin, my parents all passed away in their 70s, and my grandparents, were in their late 60s, early 70s. There's no way I'm going to get past 85. You still hear that?
Yeah, no, I hear that more often than you think. When we sit down with people, husband and wife sitting across from us, there's always someone, and it's usually the husband saying, when I'm going, okay, we're planning for the idea that you're going to live in your 90s. And he's always, in most cases, I always laugh and chuckle because it's always I'm waiting for it. And then he's like, well, no, I'd be lucky if I lived to like 80, right? And they're like, there's no way, my parents had lived that long and all that kind of stuff. And here's the reality that people really have to get a grasp on, right? Medical advancements have gotten so good these days that we've found a way to keep people healthier. We have medications and things like that are keeping people alive. I just know this from experience from dealing with clients that have had long-term care scenarios, right? When I started in this business 21 years ago, I had people that, unfortunately, their health deteriorated. They were in a long-term care scenario, and they might have lasted a couple years. Well, I'll give you a newsflash. Today, I'm seeing clients that are still going strong 5 to 7 years longer. And so what people have to really understand is with all the medical advancements that we've had, we've actually found a way to extend our lives and actually live a good life going forward. So it's real important for people to understand this is one of the big challenges that you need to start facing is we need to start planning for the idea that you're going to live a lot longer than you probably assume you are. In most cases, I've got clients right now that are well in their 90s and going strong. My oldest client, she just turned 98 a couple months ago. Amazing, right? 98. She is a firecracker. I love her to death. She's been one of my original clients from a long time ago, and she's still going strong. So it's important to know that you need to start planning for that and doing the right things to ensure that you don't run out of money in retirement, because you got to plan for the idea that there's a good chance you could potentially live to 100 for all we know. So real important one, real big challenge I think everyone needs to really understand.
So when somebody like that says, look, Kevin, I don't think there's any way I'm going to live to 85. So then you say, okay, well, I guess I'll make your plan, at least make sure the money lasts till you're 80. You're going to do what they want, right? You're not going to tell them, I think you're mistaken.
No, and that's just that. Yeah, right? So I always tell them, I go, you have your plan, but you're working with me and I'm going to have my plan because I want to make sure that you're both going to be covered. If it's a husband and wife sitting there and he thinks that, well, there's a good chance that she's going to live well beyond him in some cases, right? So, it's real important that you're planning for both of your retirement. So I always say, and I always joke around, I go, you think of today, you plan for today, I'm planning for tomorrow, I'm planning for 20 years from now. I'm making sure that we're doing the right things, crossing the right T's, dotting the right I's, so I can ensure that your money's actually going to last longer than you do. That's my most important job as your financial advisor, is to make sure that it's allocated properly, you're not taking too much risk, and we're extending it longer than you are. So a real important rule that I always have when I sit down with people, I go, you can have your ideas, but I'm going to plan for the way I know it needs to be done because I've seen it for the last 21 years.
And 20 years ago, the biggest fear people had was the fear of public speaking. Well, 10 years ago, it became, I wonder if my money's going to last as long as I do. And that is still the number one fear of retirees today, is the fear of outliving their money. That's a big question, big concern. How much income do I need? Well, how do I know it's going to last that long? How do I come up with this? That's what Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments can certainly help you with. It's 843-375-8700. No cost, no obligation, no pressure for this chat. 843-375-8700. And we'll give you that number throughout the program because it's really important, I think, to be proactive when it comes to retirement planning. Not reactive, not something bad happened. Now what do I do? Let's put a plan in place before we get to that point, and let's understand where we are going into retirement. 843-375-8700. And we started by saying, hey, this is not our grandparents' retirement today. And my grandparents retired, Kevin, in the 70s. And they're both deceased now, but they had a great life. But I think the challenges for them was not income. Right? Income was pretty easy for them. They had high interest rates in the 70s and 80s, double-digit interest rates and high inflation. But you could put money in a CD, get 8, 10, 12, 14%. Just ladder them. You're good to go. Plus, you had a pension from your job and you had Social Security. Income was not a problem. Today's retirees, income, to me, is the number one concern that we have, is how in the world do I replace those paychecks that are no longer coming in? Because I've got a 401k. I don't have a pension. And a pension and a 401k are not the same, are they?
And that's exactly right. So, the misconception today is we've kind of gotten a little dull to the idea that you are in a defined contribution plan, right? Meaning you're contributing to a savings plan, more or less, for your retirement. The government's allowing you to take some deductions to put money away for your retirement. But a 401k plan or an IRA account or wherever you're putting your money in for retirement, that's just a glorified savings plan. Whereas your grandparents and so on that have had pensions, were in a defined benefit plan. So contribution versus benefit, right? The 401k is not a benefit by any means. So you need to make sure that you're utilizing the tools that are available out there. And it's always this misconception because, there's so much information out there giving you, oh no, you got to stick all your money into the investment world and draw down, a certain amount of money, right? The old 4% rule. This is one of them, right? Well, and if you haven't heard the 4% rule, I'll just tell you to throw it out the door anyways because it doesn't work. And that was the old idea. If I put $1 million in, I'm going to draw $40,000 out a year and it should never, run out. Well, new studies have been shown over the years that just doesn't work anymore, right? And so you can't assume that you can draw a certain dollar amount off your investment accounts. But here's the great thing about today. Today, there's so many different types of investment companies and insurance companies that have come out with numerous tools, right? So I always say, and you come into my office, I'm going to open up my big toolbox, and I'm going to have every tool you're possibly going to need for your job in retirement, right? So I'm going to have all the options that are available, and we're just going to have to find the one that's going to fit you the best, right, to do the job that needs to be done. And there's options out there. There are so many options out there, and if you diversify your portfolio, your savings, your retirement savings, putting some money away where you're, continuing to grow it in the market, because I think that's important. You need to factor in inflation and all these other things that we need to worry about down the road and big expenditures. But the same token, we need to make sure that we're ensuring that we're setting up some type of income plan, utilizing these insurance companies that have these different tools out there because they work. I've seen it. I've been doing this, again, for 21 years, and I have clients that are on these programs, and they have. In a lot of cases, the ones that are in their 90s right now, they've actually gone down to zero, and they're still getting their paychecks from these insurance companies going forward because it's a benefit that's only going to help you going forward in retirement, knowing that no matter what the markets do, you know that you have that paycheck coming in your mailbox every month. It's important for you to understand those tools are available for you. You just got to be willing to sit down and explore these things because they work and they would relieve the stress in retirement, and they would take out the number one fear of running out of money in retirement and just throw it out the door because you have the resources and the tools available to make that happen so you don't have to be thinking about those things.
So I know if we retire, let's say in our mid-50s, we need to keep some money in the 401k because the IRA is going to say, sorry, it's a 10% penalty when you pull money out below the age of 59 and a half. There's ways around that in the 401k world. But let's say that we're going to retire at 65. And I've got money in a 401k, but I'm 60 years of age. So I'm going to work 5 more years. The in-service rollover of a 401k seems to me to be kind of interesting. It's probably not right for everybody, and not all companies allow you to do it. Most do today. Kind of since 2008, the Great Recession, people were not happy when their 401ks became 201ks and they started suing people. They said, we need to give them the ability to get their money out when they get that close to retirement. Do you help people with in-service rollovers of their 401k, and how does that work?
Yep, in-service distributions. It's what's called a non-hardship in-service distribution. One of the best tools that you have available to you that you probably had no idea you had the access to. Most plans, I would say probably 3 out of 4 of them, maybe not even more than that, probably 80 to 85% of them, let's just say, have that provision inside your 401k, which will allow you to take usually up to about 90%, is usually what I've seen about an average, 90% of your 401k balance and be able to roll it over to a traditional IRA. And you go, well, Kevin, what's the difference? It's already invested. Well, here's the difference. We could take that portion and, whatever we decide to take out, maybe we take half of it out, and we put it into one of these products and these scenarios that are going to provide the tools for you so in 5 years, we can almost kind of exactly predict, based on different things, and we run these illustrations to show you exactly how much you're going to be receiving so you can set yourself up with a personal pension account for you and your spouse, have a set dollar amount, so no matter what the market does, if we end up having a huge market correction right before retirement, and I can tell you, I had a lot of these back in 2008, that just kept riding the market out thinking they can keep going, and they rolled into retirement with about 40 to 50% less money and had to go into a distribution stage, drawing that money down at that point, which is the worst thing you'd ever want to do. But if you can just earmark a certain amount of money today, protect it, put it into some type of scenario that's going to provide you that personal pension income when you turn 65 that you can rely on, that is a set dollar amount, it's going to basically give you the flexibility and comfort knowing you have something in place. At the same token, maybe you take the other portion of the money you pull out, and we can put it into different types of safe investments as well if you want to, at the same time allowing you to still have growth in the market. Because the last thing I want to see you do is start shifting more of your money into a money market account when there's other options out there that could actually provide some better growth and at the same time provide the same safety and security that you might have in some type of money market account. So in-service distributions, great option. If you've never heard of it, it's a good time to give us a call because we can show you exactly how you can utilize that to benefit yourself.
Again, if you have questions about this in-service distribution of a 401k, I've never really heard about it. It's 843-375-8700, 843-375-8700. We're going to come back. We're going to talk with Kevin about his bucket approach when it comes to retirement planning and your money and taxes and all those kind of scenarios. That's where we're headed next. This is the Retirement Focus Academy, powered by Geiger Investments and Kevin Geiger. We're back in 1 minute.
You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Get the retirement planning information you need by joining Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments for the Retirement Focus Academy. What's the best way for you to take Social Security? When can you sign up for Medicare, and what does it actually cover? What and is there a way to lower your tax bill? These and much more will be discussed. To enroll in an upcoming virtual Retirement Focus Academy course, visit retirementfocusacademy.com or call 843-790-9293. Plan Plan today so you can do the things you've dreamt about doing in retirement. Sign up for the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments at retirementfocusacademy.com or call 843-790-9293. Advisory services offered through Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, and Geiger Investments are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Our firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government.
You're listening to the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger, powered by Geiger Investments. 843-375-8700.
We're talking about, hey, it's not our grandparents' retirement anymore. There's a lot of different challenges. Longevity is certainly a factor because the longer we're here, the more health issues, the more market volatility, the more taxes might be going up. There's just a lot of things. The longer we're here, the more challenges we might face. We certainly hope you do have a long, wonderful, healthy life, and that's for sure. So we're talking about the challenges, really, of the differences between today's retirees and our grandparents, basically. One of the big challenges when we talk about longevity, and the number one fear of retirees, Kevin, is the fear of outliving our money, right? We still want to have some money when we do pass away, or bounce the check for our funeral. Sorry, I can't afford it. Good luck to my kids to pay for it. But one of the things that you do that's I think it's easy to understand, and that is your 3-bucket approach to help us not run out of money before we run out of life. Can you explain that?
Sure. So I like to use the 3 buckets. Like when I sit down with people, I'll draw these buckets out in a piece of paper because I'm a visual person. So if you're a visual person, you would actually enjoy this when I do this. But I think it's important for people to really understand that in a lot of cases, people live on the 2-bucket approach. They don't even realize it. They're like, well, I've got my savings account and I've got my investment account, and that's how it's all working. Well, if you do it differently, if you follow the way I've kind of structured this thing out, and this is the way I've approached things going forward in retirement because it works. So your first bucket is your checking and savings account, right? That's where your money is, and that's where you're paying for your bills on a day-to-day basis and going out to eat and doing all these kind of things. And this is the bucket that you're going to have to live off of, which is pretty much the same bucket you had when you were working, right? Or if you're still working, that's the bucket that where your paychecks are going into, right? Second one's going to be your income bucket, right? This is where your Social Security is going to come in. If you have a pension, your pension's going to come into this. But the reality is your income bucket is probably not going to have enough income coming in if it only has Social Security coming in, right? So you need to find a way to create more income. So I always joke around. I go, you always need a pass in retirement, right? You need to either have a pension. If you don't have a pension, you probably should have some type of annuity to provide that, pension-like payment for yourself, and then you have Social Security. The reality behind this is I always say, if you need $5,000 a month to come into your income bucket, to go into your savings bucket that you're living off of on a daily basis, you probably should balance out the idea that you probably need $6,000 or $7,000 coming in there. You should always have more income coming in than you need, right? So when you worked in your working years, you probably had excess income that was in your checking and savings account that you had to cover some bigger bills, or maybe decide to take a vacation and things like that. So it's important to make sure that you're planning for the idea of more income than you think you're going to need. Every time I sit down with someone with a budget, they're like, oh, I have $5,000, that's what it is. And every time, 6 months later, they're going, Kevin, we really messed this up. We really need $6,000 or $7,000. So I always say, plan for the idea of over budgeting for what you think you're going to need in income, and then if you set that up, you've now solved your income need. You've solved the idea that you don't have to worry about running out of money in retirement because you've set yourself up with getting a paycheck on a monthly basis between your Social Security, your pension, or if you don't have a pension, set yourself up with some type of annuity that's going to provide that lifetime income for yourself and your spouse. And then now your growth bucket, the bucket that I always say tends to be the 2-bucket approach. A lot of people put all their money into the investments and they say, I'm just going to draw off of this. Well, how many times have we had some pretty big market downturns here and there throughout the years? And it's important to understand, if you're putting all your money into an investment bucket and you're drawing on that, and we have another pandemic that comes around where all of a sudden we lose 30% within a week or two, you're going to have to make some alterations to your retirement so you can tone back your income, hoping that you're going to make that back up. That approach doesn't work. But if you do it my way, and you set it up where you've set up an income source for yourself that's more than you need, and your income bucket's overflowing. Now you can take your investment account, and we can probably, depending on your risk level, maybe be somewhere middle of the road, allowing it to grow. So it'll allow you to have a bigger bucket of money down the road. So maybe you want to take that big cruise around the world, or spoil those grandchildren. It gives you that ability to do all the things that you want to do, to have that bucket, but you're not relying on that to be your only income source. You're relying on that for the big ticket items. And so when you have some really good years in the market, maybe those are the years you spoil yourself a little bit because you've done so well that you have that ability. Plus, on top of that, it's the other bucket that's going to help cover inflation. The cost of living is going to continue to go up in retirement, right? So that $6,000 we're pulling out in your income, at some point we might have to find a way to create some additional income down the road because the needs are going to go up, the costs are going to go up, healthcare might go up, so there's a lot of things that could be variables. But if you use a 3-bucket approach, it works, because if we set it up properly, we've solved your income, we've solved the growth bucket, and we solved the idea of not having to have that fear of running out of money in retirement.
843-375-8700 if you'd like to learn more. 843-375-8700. Glad you're with us today for the Retirement Focus Academy, powered by Geiger Investments and Kevin Geiger. I'm Mark Elliott, and we're talking about, hey, this isn't our grandparents' retirement. It's different. Now, I was telling you earlier, my grandparents retired in the 70s, so that meant high interest rates, high inflation, but they could just ladder CDs and get 8, 10, 12, 14%, and it was an easy way to create some safe money to go with their pension and their Social Security. Well, I can't do that. We can't do that today in the CD world. But I would imagine you still have people coming in and say, well, my grandparents use CDs, and it was really an easy thing for them. I think I should probably do the same because we don't know any better. Are you still pushing people into the CD world, Kevin?
No, I'm not a huge fan of CDs unless you're just looking for something short-term, like a year or less or something. But if you've got money that you've just been sticking away in CDs, renewing these things year by year, and you're probably not doing a whole lot with this over the next few years, and you've got enough other savings, but you're just trying to safeguard a certain portion of this money, there are definitely other options out there that will actually provide better growth than a CD, provide the same principal protection that you're looking for, and at the same time, you can also get what's called tax deferral. And tax deferral is a big one, because I always say, putting that money in a 1% CD for the year, and then at the end of the year you get this whopping 1099 for that 1% of interest. It's like, that's like salt in the wound. Well, imagine if you're able to put it into an investment where you really never have to pay any income taxes on this because you just haven't touched it. You're just allowing it to roll over year by year to grow, provide better interest, and still get that same principal protection. There's so many options out there to do that. So when I sit down with people, and I always ask, I go, out of curiosity, do you have any CDs? And of course, I would say 2 out of 3 times, oh yeah, we do. We have a CD. We just renewed our one for 0.98%. I'm like, we got to talk about this. And so what's neat is I sit down with them, I show them these different investment options that are out there inside my big toolbox I keep talking about, right? I got this huge toolbox in my office, and so I can just open that drawer up and I go, here's these tools. I have these options out there that are going to provide maybe 3%, maybe a 4% interest, in a sense, where you can actually get more money on your money. And oh, by the way, if you leave this alone for the next 5 years, guess what? You're not going to get that 1099. You're not going to get any of that kind of stuff because you're deferring it. You're just allowing it to continue to grow year by year until you want to take it out. So now, at the end of the year when you're doing your taxes, you don't have to worry about paying any of that money back for that little piddly interest you got out of your CD. And you can still get the same principal protection and everything else, the reason why you bought the CD. So if you have CDs right now, and you're not real too happy about these interest rates, which I wouldn't be if I was making 1% or so, you should look into these alternative investment stuff that provide the same safety that you're looking for, yet better growth and everything else going forward.
Yeah, so if you'd like to learn more about Kevin's little special toolkit that he's got there available for you, because Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments can help you in the investment world. They can also help you in the insurance world. And so not all of us should be all our money in the bank or all of our money in the insurance world or all of our money in the Wall Street world. It's kind of a blending of the three worlds together. Kevin and the team can certainly walk you through some of these options. 843-375-8700. All right, lastly, one of the things that's different about our retirement than our grandparents is healthcare, the cost of healthcare and longevity, because of all the advances in medicine you talked about earlier, that allows us to be here longer than we probably would have been 20 or 30 years ago. And we've also talked about, you own Carolina Medicare as well as Geiger Investments. And we need to make the right Medicare decisions. Is this an area that when people get to the age of 65, they don't really understand all the moving parts? And is this an easy thing to mess up that could even have lasting repercussions?
100%. Medical insurance and all together, right? We always know this even in the days we're working. Medical insurance is the most important thing for us to have because we don't know what's happening tomorrow. Something bad could happen to us and we're in a hospital, going through tons of treatments. We could end up being, diagnosed with cancer or whatever the case might be, and all these kind of things that could just pop up, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Well, when it comes to retirement, you've got to make the right medical decisions when it comes to your Medicare decisions, right? So you've got to understand that, when you sign up for Medicare and you just sign up for Part A and Part B, you better understand that if you're just on Part A and Part B by itself, you're still liable for 20% of all the costs that you're going to absorb when it comes to healthcare. So, but here's a great thing. If you're willing to spend a few extra bucks to have some extra coverage when it comes to your Medicare, you probably, when you sign up for Medicare for Part A and Part B, that's the time when you have the ability to sign up for what's called a Medicare Supplement plan, right? And Medicare Supplement plans, if you pick, say, a G plan, which is today the best plan, that'll end up covering that extra 20% coinsurance that you would be liable for, so you know that your health insurance is completely covered. It's a better plan than the private sector altogether, right? So when you're in the working years, you get used to deductibles and coinsurance. Well, by paying this money, which is still cheaper than in a lot of cases what your company insurance was, it's now going to cover all that cost. So you know that when you're in retirement, the biggest expense you have to be concerned about is your healthcare expense. But if you set up the plans right from day one, that becomes your smallest expense in retirement. So if you can limit your biggest expense and make it your smallest expense, imagine how much more discretionary income you're going to have to go out to do dinners and spoil those grandchildren and travel the world, because you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, right? But let's just say you just don't have the money to spend on that stuff. Well, then the other option is you can look into what's called a Medicare Advantage plan. And this at least will kind of limit the blow that you might have if you have some medical issues, right? Because it sets limits and all that stuff as far as out-of-pocket expenses, so they can help you with that. So just don't sign up for Part A and Part B and leave it alone. If you're only going to go that route, at least set yourself up with a Medicare Advantage plan. If not, do you want to spend a few extra bucks, I highly recommend looking into a Medicare Supplement plan, like a Part G, to have everything covered going forward, because that's what's going to help you and save you a ton of money in retirement, so that medical insurance and medical expenses don't become your biggest expense. It's the smallest one.
Yeah, so you think about it, the number one reason that retirees and actually even working people have to file for bankruptcy is a big health issue that they weren't expecting. They didn't have the insurance to cover it. It's crazy, the cost. And I think we all have certainly seen instances of that, going to the doctor or the hospital. And I had a stent put in last year, and I think it was $85,000. And I was there for 12 hours, I think. So it is crazy to think about that. So Medicare, the open enrollment period is coming up October 15th through December 7th. It's an opportunity to, if you're on Medicare, it gives you some opportunities here to make some tweaks if that's the case. And you don't have to have underwriting or anything during that time period. It's open enrollment. You got some options there. If you'd like to learn more, though, you can always talk to Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments. Carolina Medicare is also a company that Kevin and Lauren run. It's really important. The healthcare part is a big, big question. We don't know if we're going to have any issues or not, if something's going to happen or not. What if, right? Those scenarios. 843-375-8700. 843-375-8700. Kevin, enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a great week. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, Mark, and take care, y'all.
This has been the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger. Advisory services offered through Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, and Geiger Investments are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Blackridge Asset Management LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Blackridge Asset Management LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.